hopefully that should have started and you'll get a pop-up because work is always so we sent through a list of questions for you. We'll probably just go through. I have a feeling I kind of go off on tangents and start asking other questions. So we'll just go with the flow, but hopefully we won't keep you for too long. So you have some of your Saturday morning back. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am currently working as an assistant. I'm talking about professionally. I'm trained as an architect, and I'm currently working as an assistant archivist at India's one of the first architectural archives, which is based in western part of the India, which is Ahmedabad, which is also known as design capital of the India. It's called SEPT Archives, and SEPT is a university, it's an architecture and a habitat university who has set up this archive. And I am a graduate from SEPT. My postgraduate is from SEPT, and then I came back to work here. So that's what I do professionally. I am in. You can probably call me as an architectural archivist because I'm a trained architect, and this is an architectural archive. So that's where and I am my postgraduate. I have been trained to be an architectural historian. So I'm not trained archivist or record manager. So all of that sort of ties into what I do at the moment.
So, fantastic. Yeah. So you'd probably have all of the models that the students and would have to create.
The archive that I work with is also university archive, but we do a lot of, and it's an ever-growing repository. It's a decade-old archive. So we are not very old, but very new in that sense. And what we also do is, apart from, it's a university archive, so we acquire a lot of things from the university produced by faculty and students and so on. But what we also do is we also acquire a lot of architectural works in India across South Asia. We're sort of trying to broaden our reach that way. But we also acquire a lot of works of different architects from the post-independence era in the India. So we have 4 collections at the moment. That is SEPT repository, where we sort of get material from the university. Then we have other independent architects coming in, and we acquire a lot of material from that sort of. And then we have oral history is another special collection. So yeah, that's sort of a very quick brief of what kind of work that we have at the archives.
I always find it interesting how often people they start with one career and then kind of end up working in this space. And I kind of did that in a roundabout way, but people seem to think that I kind of drove straight into it, but not about me today. Do you think there was any kind of understanding of information management and taught you as your course as an architect, or is that because the kind of things you'd have to capture for an architect, because of course the building's going to be there for a long time, it kind of translates quite well?
Well, the training as an architect, how it translates in the work I do is I'm able to understand where the context is. So a lot of architectural production, how it is, and there's a different formats of architectural production in general with every offices and every practice. So what it allows me to do is to be able to read drawings, to understand the material, what is happening, because I deal with a lot of large format drawings and mostly records related to the drawings and to the practice. So once you've been trained to do a certain practice in a certain manner, one can understand the nuances of how it might have been produced. And you can understand the context a bit more better when you have that background understanding of where these things might be coming from. So in terms of appraisal, in terms of acquisition policies, in terms of generally managing it, it becomes a lot more easier. However, you have to constantly train yourself in larger, archival theories and how the arrangement works and how the record management works. That is always things in training, things that you keep on sort of learning as you are on the job. So yeah.
Are you doing some specific training to help with your job?
Not at the moment, but I have been part of a conference, and then I have been done very few online trainings that helps understand And the trainings are really smaller and do not encompass a lot of information that we deal with, but these becomes like plugins to help broaden the perspective and understand what all can be done and what all other peers among the same sector is doing. So that sort of really helps in that, but not rigorously training myself with these courses, but as and when I get the opportunity and as and when I can find out time to be able to get onto those courses.
What's your favorite part about working in this profession?
So it was I think a long time ago when I had shifted. So I'm basically from the central part of India, but I shifted to the western part of India long back after my undergraduation. So I always wanted to work in a sector that is related to somewhat related to architectural history. That is what my inclination was. I also like writing. So a lot of, and the course which I did allowed me to sort of explore all these all these things, all these aspects of the larger architectural discourse, so to say. In terms of what I like about what I do is I'm able to look at so much of information and able to sort of open up so much, not that I can do everything that I can understand, in the sense that the material opens up so many avenues to explore. And some of it one can explore, but some of it, it's just when you're describing the material, when you are just making sense of what all one can do with it, it's really fascinates me still. And it's not like once you see one kind of material, that's it. You look at it in a different time, or maybe after a few days, you might come up with something else. So that is what it's like. The archives are bodies of knowledge. They just keep on giving you so much of stuff every time when you look at them. So I think that is what really sort of fascinates me still. And every time I look at some of the other material, it always tells so much more what it has already sort of told before. So I think that's what the constant exploration, the constant curiosity of the curiosity coming from within, but the curiosity to be able to gain more and more information or to sort of open up avenues is something that I really like about what I do, because it also allows me to deal with so much material and to meet new people, network within the sector. I think all that sort of makes the job interesting. And of course, my affinity to architectural history and what all it can do, what is the relation between the archives, how can archives be, how can architectural archives become a part of architectural pedagogy, what are the relationships, what are the nuances, how can one, so I mean those questions are constantly in the head, and then one is trying to explore through the job at hand. So I think, yeah, that's what a lot of things to fascinate me about my work. So there's not one single thing. And of course, the kind of patience that one needs to deal with archives and to be able to hold the physical material and be fragile, all of that also, because it's just fascinating, I think, yeah.
You're certainly very passionate. It kind of makes me get a little bit, because I obviously love the profession, but you're making me feel excited as well. The opposite end, what don't you really like about the profession?
I mean, the geography where I come from, it is, we do not have a lot of professional courses. So even if one wants to enter into the profession, they would enter through different means. And they would have to learn a lot of things on the job. And also, I think, I mean, there are a lot of people who are very helpful and who are associated with the profession, with the larger architectural profession, who are very helpful. You can always go to them and ask your questions. But you know, and I've so far I've understood that the sector is a very collaborative sector, and people would come out for help. But what I really think, the lack of, sometimes for people who are not trained and working in the sector, the lack of resources, that contextual resources. I mean, there are many resources that are out there that one can understand, but a lot of contextual resources in terms of the geography are very are not very comprehensive and do not give you the direction that you're looking for. So I think that's what something is. I'm sorry, did you ask about the job or in general about the profession?
Both.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing I would say about the profession, that a lot of things it's sometimes very difficult to unroll yourself and sort of understand yourself, and it just needs basically a little push from outside or a more industry experience coming in from working on the same things and figuring out the same things. You can learn from their experience. I think that is what is missed a little bit. So a lot of things that you end up doing are things that you have understood from reading articles, from reading a lot of books and things like that, and they might not be the correct way to go. So I think the closeness or the lack of industry experts around in the geography, I think that's what is something. Or maybe the apprehension to reach out the correct people is also something that sort of puts one down. So there's a lot of things in terms of resources and how to sort of do one task, which is already being done by a lot of other people, but maybe, it is, sometimes you don't reach out to them, sometimes you do reach out to them, but due to time and so many other factors, it just doesn't fall in place. So I think that is one thing. On the job, the things that I don't like is I think a lot of not that as such I do not have much complaints, but the only thing is that this is a profession which requires a lot of patience and perseverance, and you need to be able to see a project in its full completion. It could be multi-year process, and if you're a part of it, and if you want to think that if I want to see the process and progress in a much faster way, it sometimes is not possible. So a lot of things also, because of a lot of bureaucracy and hierarchies involved, it gets a little slow. So I would really want those processes to become more faster. Not that will make the process not finish in a year and not be stretched to multi-years, but it will just make the process more smoother. So I think that's something I would really want to happen, and hopefully someday it will. But yeah, that's something which puts down. But yeah.
Yeah, sounds like you have a lot of challenges, but it sounds like this would be pretty typical for a lot of new professionals. Do you think that a lot of people share the same?
I do. So a lot of people I have been talking to do share similar scale of problems, and I think that's what really helps in understanding that it's not just oneself figuring out all of this. The same questions, irrespective of where they are in the profession, they are still grappling with the same questions and the same problems. So it sort of allows one to understand that you're not alone in this, and there are people to help you out if you reach out to them. So I think I do consider that a lot of people might be struggling with similar sort of problems and similar scale of problems. So yeah, I think yes, yeah.
Are you engaged with the greater profession in any way, like professional groups or associations or anything like that?
Not at the moment. I have been part of some of the professional conference, one of the professional conference actually, and not. So we do not have professional groups in the geography where I am placed right now. But there are people who are sort of putting together professional bodies and sort of calling in people. So probably maybe in the next year we would have some or the other groups that we could be a part of, but not at the moment. I'm a member of ICA, that sort of helps, and that really helps to sort of understand what is happening around the world in the sector. So that is something very, very good and important, which I very recently found out. So I think that is one important thing, that to be part of such certain international body that regulates a lot of things in the sector, and sort of people look up to such bodies to be able to learn a lot about other, and they have a lot of resources on the website, so that helps. But in the geography I'm based in at the moment, no.
Would you say that it's more informal collaboration when you have challenges, you can go ask some people for help, but that's more informal?
I think mostly it is informal because you are looking more for a quick understanding of how to move forward. The moment it becomes more formal, there are a lot of other people involved, and the moment there are more people involved, it just takes a little more time. But there are certain collaborations which are very formal, which are for very different purposes. But for personal understanding of sort of problem solving or things like that, that becomes more informal, so that you can really just get on to the work, and that then becomes the informal collaboration.
So I'm glad to hear that you know about ICA and have joined, because I know it's definitely a good international collaboration, because I've done, I'm part of the university sector as well. We have a really good reading group, and it's always interesting hearing from different people from across the universities. Just reading through the list and which question to ask next. Yeah, if you want to jump in with anything, go for it.
No, I think I'll just leave it to you. Whatever question you think after the discussion, I'm fine with any of these. I think.
Yeah. Actually, thinking about that, because you obviously trained as an architect first, were you involved with is there like professional associations in that area that you were part of before you kind of switched into records?
So as an architect, to be a practicing architect, you have to be associated with something called Council of Architecture in India. I'm a registered architect under COA. So that's one thing. But that's a very different sort of sector, and then as a job as an archivist is a very different thing. So before entering, and I am still a part of that part of the profession, but because I can still practice, and I can still sort of work as an architect if I want to. So yeah, I'm part of that. That is the national regulatory body for how architectural practice works in the geography. So yeah, that is. But they're not connected to what I do now. So yeah.
Probably, yeah, that little bit more formal.
Yeah.
This is one, so of course the survey that we sent out, and thank you so much for filling it out and giving us a very good insight into the profession. It was based on the same survey that they did in 2016, and there are a couple of extra questions that we wanted to add in, but thought we would bring into these larger interviews. A very interesting question, which has become more relevant in more recent years. How do you think climate change affects records management and archives today?
I think a lot of repositories require the temperature control system and an environment, and a lot of material in the archives requires a very specialized and controlled environment, and that is a very direct impact that I can think from the top of my head that that the profession largely have to deal with to be able to say. And I've also somehow got an understanding that a lot of buildings are not purpose-built for the archive, especially where I come from. They are sort of converted to become a place that can house an archive because of many reasons, which are infrastructural reasons or whatever reasons that might be in that point of time when an institution decides to create their archive. So in that sort of thing, the building is not purpose-built. So definitely the footprint of the energy consumption is definitely large. And the moment you get a purpose-built building, you can sort of control that, adhere to the many the green building demands, or the how you can conserve the energy. But the moment it is not, I think that sort of and you also need to save the material. So it's very difficult to find that balance between how you preserve the material and how you also lessen your energy emissions and sort of lessen your impact on. I think that's the first thing that comes into my mind, because the moment it's not a purpose built, you are always doing some of the other changes. You're always putting in more and more energy in pumping more and more energy into the repository, because some of the other thing keeps on happening, because it is, you're always changing it. So I think that is what is something, if a lot of repositories before setting it up understand that if the building is purpose built, that will allow that can allow for a better, for a better energy consumption, and that can sort of lessen the impact, larger impact on the which directly leads to the climate change, lesser impact on the planet, I think. But that is something that's also a very difficult question, and there is no sort of single answer to that at the moment. This is something very coming from my experience, but I'm sure there are many other ways that the profession impact the climate change. This is just one very small bit that comes to my mind at the moment. But I'm sure that this, and climate change is very real. It's just it's with us every time now, and with the temperatures raising, and there is so much to deal with, unpack as to how can we do things better. I think that's a constant question that we are all asking ourselves. I think some of us are asking ourselves that how to move forward, how to be better. So I think that's constant learning that we are doing. Yeah.
So I can't think of any apart from our national state archive that actually has a custom built. And I know ours was just, there's some space in the bottom of this building that will work for the archive. It does work to a degree, but yeah, it's spending a lot of time and effort getting the right temperature and humidity in that space.
Right.
Yeah.
Going off on that, another thing we were thinking about was how the pandemic has affected new professionals in our field. Do you have any thoughts on how the pandemic has affected you or other people that you know?
I think as a profession, so during the pandemic, I was not an archivist, but what from people that I've heard is that a lot of things are on-site work in the archives, and there are certain things you just cannot do at home. And there's a lot of physical arrangement of the material, there's a lot of physical counting of the material, there's a lot of accessioning and all of that. So it's a more of on-site job, and it's very difficult to do it from home. Especially when you're looking at the physical collection. The digital collection, probably there can be some of the other means that can happen from work from home. So people who were involved during that time, it became very difficult for them to sort of keep up their spirit as to what to do next. Because and a lot of people who are working on a very specialized thing, for example, digitization, it's just very difficult to work without the setup. You cannot do it at home. So I think it sort of impacted in that sense that what next, and will we be able to keep this after the pandemic? Because also the most important thing in the sector is to have enough funding to be able to keep the work going, because most of the archives, as I understand, are funded by external, and they're not sort of a money making, or they're not sort of a profit making venture all the time. Most of the time they are not. And especially where I work, it's a not-for-profit thing, and there's a lot of things about that. Now the pandemic is here. What is going to happen with the funds? Are we going to get the funds? Are we still going to sort of continue the digitization projects, because that's the most expensive sort of thing. So I think that's something. A lot of uncertainties have just evolved, and then now those uncertainties have stayed with people, because it's very hard to let them go once everything is, even if we say that it's the new normal and we are doing things the way we were doing before, but this question has stuck that if something happens like that again, it would have a greater impact. There would be a lot of cost cutting, there would be a lot of, because so I think that's what those questions, those uncertainties have stuck around, and they're going to be there, and now people are working around those uncertainties and making sure that somehow to live with it. I think that's what is happening. But it was a lot of anxiety-inducing phase, and a lot of, because nobody knew what is the next step that is going to happen. Do they keep their jobs? How do we manage? And for managers especially, what is the roadmap now? How do you manage further activities at the archives? Will people be still coming to the archives? Will people be still interested in the material, in the sense that, you know, a lot of material might not be digitized and would require a physical visit. So all those questions, how to work around them, how to make sure that the access is still open, how to make sure the access is widened. So I think all those questions came up. Some of the interesting questions came up during the pandemic, some of the uncertainties and a lot of anxiety still remains, and one is still figuring out how to sort of deal with those uncertainties and anxieties. Yeah, and I think I don't know, it would be safe to say that a larger profession sees the other professions sees the same, but I do think there's a lot of uncertainties, and nobody has those answers as yet, and everybody is sort of figuring out as they go with it. Yeah.
Definitely those uncertainties are still there. I don't think anyone's like, oh, everything's completely happy again. I think we're going to be this way for a little while yet. I've got, there you go. Oh, so I've got a couple of really quick questions just about your workplace. So you kind of mentioned there, people do come in. So is it open to the public? They can come in and view things from the collection?
Yeah, it's very much open for anybody who wants to look at the archive, irrespective that they do belong to the university or not. So it's open for scholars, students, and anybody who just want to look at the material also. So it's free of charge. It's open for all at the moment. Yeah.
Fantastic. And you mentioned digitization. So obviously there are things that are in hard copy that are being digitized, but is it a combination of hard copy, digitized, or digital, or?
So we do have some hybrid collection, but a large part of the collection is in physical format. So, and there are also collections where we digitize the material and give the physical material back to the donor, depending upon what their understanding, what are the acquisition, or what are the agreement policies that have been laid out and have been decided with the donor and us. So a lot of material is in physical format, and by policy we try and scan a lot of it, because a lot of people, we understand, that are not able to visit the archive. And we definitely want to widen the access, and we constantly do a very active outreach through social media, through other means of exhibitions and things like that. So at the moment, we are digitizing a lot of material, and that's a lot of, and we are very thankful that university sort of helps us doing that, because the vision is to sort of completely widen the access and provide as much access to students and historians, professionals who are looking to understand, you know, the architectural histories and things like that. So I think that's something we do by policy at the moment, that we digitize all the material from all the collections as much as we can. And of course, then that leads to a larger part of how do we catalog a lot of material, how do we prepare finding aid, what is the kind of how do we describe the because there's a lot of work involved. So I think that's a continuous work that we keep on doing.
Definitely sounds like you're keeping busy, lots to do. So I'm wondering, how many people work in your organization?
There are 8 at the moment, and it's a small organization, but there are student assistants who comes and goes. So I think that's what there are a lot of volunteers, student assistants, and research fellows who come and go. So we are sort of 8 to 10 to 12, 8 permanently, 8 are always there. But then there are other people who really comes and goes as and when we put up a call for volunteers and assistants.
It's a really quite a big team by Australian standards. Like that's probably one of the biggest outsider specialized like state unit or something like that. So that's actually really impressive. You mentioned just before that you are engaging through social media. Is this something that's new or started during the pandemic, and how's the support been and feedback from that?
Interestingly, it did start very recently. And it did start from this idea that it is important to have that kind of an outreach for people to know what we do and what kind of material we hold, because not everybody is looking at the catalog, because a lot of people just want to swipe and just want to see what you have and just want to sort of and have different means of engagement with a lot of material. And we do want to cater to the audience that are looking at serious research and more of experience research, but we also want to let people know, largely in the student community, that we are there. And sort of social media outreach also helps to spread the word, also help us to sort of understand how can we make these things into narratives and put it on the social media. So it did interestingly start with recently. I think maybe during the pandemic. I was on the part when it was started, but I do think that it was during or before the pandemic. But social media as an outreach method is to be able to put out how we do things, what we have, and how can one access, what are is there any questions? We're always open. So basically, it's again a part to widen the access to the material and to let people know that these are the kind of materials that we hold. And since we're an architectural archives, it is not only the drawings, but there are also so much more that we hold. And that is something, once you're architectural archives, you might be from a different profession, but you might be interested in something that we might hold. So a lot of anthropologists, a lot of other architects, a lot of historians, a lot of cultural historians, and a lot of other larger fraternity is there that can get that can look at the material and make sense of it. And it is not only for the architects, so to say. So I think that is one thing that we do from the social media, and a lot of people are on social media, so it just gives more visibility to the archives. And we do want to increase more visibility, and it does reaches to more audiences, national and international. So that is what it helps in terms of visibility. It helps in peer it helps in contacts to peers from across the world, so to say. So I think that's the focus of the social media at the moment, to basically increase the visibility and let people know that we are a specialized archives, but we are open to everybody, and anybody who would be interested to look at the material. And it is not only the architectural drawings, but so much more that can be used in so many different kinds of researches and narratives and pedagogical courses and pedagogy and courses. So yeah.
I'm definitely missing like the architectural drawings that we had in my previous job. Like now we have none, but now I'm just like thinking of all the ones that I miss.
You're very welcome. Really nice. If you're here anytime, so that would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'll look you up. I was wondering, is there anything you would want to see change in the ICA, how they act or manage, anything that you think would be helpful for you that they're not currently doing?
I think I'm looking forward to for the ICA entry. So that is one very good endeavor that I very recently came across, and it sort of helped people who do not have the means, for example, like who do not have the means to be able to sort of get trained to get more exposure. So that is one thing that I really like. I as far as I've attended a lot of ICAs, YouTube, some or the other meetings that they keep on holding, and a lot of active outreach in terms of who wants to be the president, and every presidential candidate sending in their emails and CVs. So I think that is something. And the most importantly, what I will start with what I like about ICA is also that they are very inclusive, and they're not only inclusive on paper, but inclusive in actual, and it sort of shows. So you don't have to sort of say that you're inclusive, but it is out there that it is very well I think displayed that they're inclusive in the sense that they do not take inclusivity as a term, but they actually do things about it. So that is something which I really, and I'm saying this considering that there are a lot of people I see in during the meetings and the talks, and generally during the International Archives Week with some of the talks that I attended. There's a lot of mix of people that are coming around from the world and sharing their thoughts on the common platform, which sometimes we do not see. So I think that is what makes the organization more inclusive and reaches to more people who might not have access to these resources due to different forms of due to many different reasons. So that is one thing. In terms of what I would like to see happen in the I think maybe I don't know if how this would be possible, but to be able to not reach out, but maybe make some more platforms like ICA and maybe do more active reach out to people, so they're not apprehensive in terms of reaching out to an international body, especially like this endeavor ICA NP. I think I was not at all apprehensive reaching out to you or talking to any of you, because it's formal, but it's more of informal conversation. You can open up. So I think these sort of platforms should be there in terms of, and when you say new professional, you would know that you are an early career or a very new in the profession, and you are not being judged for what you have done or what you have not done. So these platforms sort of allow young professionals to be able to take that step further. So I think more opportunities that can allow the professionals to be able to come together and create a consensus platform and sort of discuss, and gives opportunity for a wider discourse, and from various backgrounds, I think, because such kind of platform sort of implies and allows that you can be a part of it, where you know that your experience is not something that is the first criteria, and you can talk about things that you can express yourself and you can express your opinions. So I think that is something which I really would like to see more. Of course, we have ICA NP, but I'm sure there could be some similar platforms or similar sort of opportunities that sort of opens up access to more people. So yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah.
Are you eligible for the program?
I am, and I've applied and looking forward to it.
I was going to say, I hope you've applied, because you are very, very fascinating to hear speak, and I'm like, I want to hear more from you. Yeah. So fingers crossed for the application. Yeah.
I'm hoping. I don't know. I'm still finger crossed. So let's see.
Because I asked in we had a meeting on Thursday, and they're still going through everything. So yes, yeah. I know they will probably announce after the conference in Rome. I think they said October, so a couple more weeks to go. It's such a nerve-wracking time.
I know. So, but I was very fascinated with how the MD has evolved, and as new professionals, what one gets to do, because it is so important to talk to people from the same field but with different contexts. That allows you to sort of gives you so much exposure and how to deal with same problems. Maybe I'm dealing with the same problem that you are dealing with, but you are coming from a very different point of view, and some of the learnings that you have had can allow me to make my process more efficient. So I think I really believe in peer learning, and that's what really helps in moving people forward. So things like the cohort can help you sort of cross learning and cross sharing experiences. It is just so nice. So I think that's really interesting, and I really want to see some more opportunities like ICA NPs, which is on similar lines. But yeah,
I think that has definitely been like my favorite part of being a new professional, like meeting people doing kind of the same thing, but not exactly the same thing, because you do things differently in that country maybe, or have like a different outlook on things. That's definitely been like the coolest thing, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I'm conscious of not taking up too much more of your Saturday morning. I know there's one last question that I want to ask Janny, but if there's anything else you want to jump in, if you've got any burning questions, go for it.
I think we're pretty good. I think we've covered a lot of things now. So you go for it, Susannah.
It's hopefully a yes/no question. Do you see yourself staying in the profession?
At the moment, I do see myself. If it changes, I'm not the one to blame. But I do hopefully see myself staying in the profession, and working with the same set of people at the moment to be able to see how this thing grows. And it is important to I understand if people do sort of change the job, but for me at the moment it is important to see how the place that I work grows with the kind of energy that we put in, because there's a lot of good synergy that is being developed at the moment, and I do want to see it grow and evolve for some time. So yes, I do see myself sometime in the profession, that is to say more than 5 years, let's say. So yeah, hopefully. So yeah.
Fantastic. I really hope you stay, because I think that you're kind of like a person to watch, because you've had very interesting insights, and I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much. I was sort of very looking forward, but I'm also sort of nervous as to, I don't know, am I going to sort of answer these questions well, and sort of what are you looking for? So I'm glad that this worked out for you. But yeah.
Because I'll admit, I came into this having absolutely no idea what was going to happen. So this has been really fun. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today. And best of luck with the application. And I know, I think Janny is the same. If you don't get in first time, keep applying, because I know my application changed. And when I was waiting to hear back, I was like, okay, this is how I'm going to change it for the next round, and was already planning, because every year that you're in, you get a little bit more experience, and it helps shape the application. But I'm fingers crossed for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I really hope you get in. I got in my second try, so don't be discouraged if it doesn't happen now. But I think it would be really interesting, and we hope to see you get in.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm always available if there's anything else. But I'm really glad that we could do this. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.